I'm Aiman, and welcome back to one of my product installation videos. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to install a Flexispot EN1 standing desk. Alright, so I have the manual right here. We're going to get right to it. I'm going to do it step by step, just so it's easy to follow along with. The first step is with the crossbeam and the two supports to put the anti-vibration pads on, which are part H. So you want to peel off the adhesive, and then take each of these and install. So the places where you install them are these holes right here. It's indicated on the drawing. So you would just install them like so. So you want to do this on this support, and this beam right here. And with this beam, you want to install it on these two smaller holes. Okay, the next step is to insert the transmission rod into the motor, and they have a drawing illustrating that there's a specific way that you install it. So the first thing is that you want to make sure that the longer side of the motor, the longer side of the transmission rod, as there are two ends. There's this end, and then there's this end, which is just a bit longer than the other end. You want to insert the longer end into the motor, and you want to make sure that you insert it from the right side. So in this case, first, make sure it's the longer side. The shorter side is about like an inch, the longer side is about 2 inches. You want to take the motor, and you want to make sure that it's oriented so that from the point of view of the rod, that the cylinder is on the left. Just like that. So you can see, just like the drawing says, insert the longer end into the motor with the cylinder on the left. Okay, so the next step is step 3, install the motor in right lifting column. Also, in the instructions, they tell you what parts you're going to use in the step. So in this case, we're using part A and part F, which A is the Allen key, or the hex key. And part F are these two washers or spacers, and these two screws. Okay, so now you want to get the right lifting column, which if you can use this little tab that's coming out of the column to ensure that you're using the right one, which in this case is this one, because the tab is on the right side and it's sticking up. Now you want to take the motor, and I find it's easiest if you orient the drawing like how it is in real life. So with this tab facing me, I'm going to make sure that the motor cylinder is towards the back. Okay. Okay. And don't worry, you can twist the transmission rod, you can twist the hole here in case the holes are not lined up. So these two holes here line up with the two holes down there. Make sure that the transmission rod is pressed in all the way. And actually, there's going to be these two spacers between the motor and the rod. Sorry, between the motor and the leg. So you just want to stick that in there. And you can do this with the screws to make it easier. Otherwise, they might fall out of place. Okay, so that's one in. First, we're going to hand screw it. And actually, I'm able to hand screw it to snug. So I'll use this later to tighten it fully. But we're not going to tighten it all the way yet, just in case we need that leeway later for in assembly. Okay, step 4 is to install the crossbeam. And so, orienting my drawing similar to how it is. I'm doing this on the bed because there's a lot more light here. We're going to take the crossbeam, make sure that our adhesives are on the facing towards us. This is technically the top. And we're going to just put it on top and screw it in. So in this case, we're using screws B, and we're using 2 of them. So take 2 of them, take your crossbeam, and ensure that you have the larger holes facing top. Not the smaller holes, because, I mean, how are you gonna screw it in otherwise? Okay, so first align it. Let's drop one in. And if you're having a bit of trouble, you can take an Allen key and push it in to guide it. And you can support the crossbeam on the other side in case it's hard to align things. But the crossbeam itself doesn't have to be straight until both of them are in, so you can actually just look from the side and guide the screw in that way. Yeah, just angle it until it gets in, and then twist it to tighten it. Okay, and now once both are in, now we can push them in all the way, or twist them in all the way. Again, we're not going to tighten it all the way, just in case we need a bit more leeway later. Okay. Alright, so step 5 is adjusting the column height. The book mentions this is a very important step because if the 2 lifting columns are not the same height, then you're not going to have a good time. And it's going to be an uneven desk. But I think these 2 are already at the same height. If you did want to, for some reason, you did have different heights, like the book says, you can just turn it. You can just turn the table leg. Sorry, you can turn the transmission rod, and that will extend or detract the leg. But anyway, moving on. Now we're going to install the left lifting column, with B screws. And this one's also saying you need the G wrench if the transmission. Oh, okay. So this is saying, as we're installing this, we got to make sure that the transmission rod goes into the this little hexagonal hole. I'll get that later. So, and what it's saying is that if the hexagon is not aligned, you can just twist it with the wrench. So first we'll try to stick it in and see if that works. And it doesn't, so I'm just going to twist it slightly. All right, and that should be in line. There we go. So now that it's pushed in, now we can line up the cross beam and screw it in. It seems like all will be okay. Alright, now for step 7 is to install the support plates. So these are what attach to the desktop, and they use B screws as well. They use 4 of them, and those are all the B screws that we have. Huh, how interesting. They don't give us extra screws. I see with some other products, or like other companies, they'll give us extra hardware just in case we're missing one. It's kind of interesting that they don't give us anything extra. But it's not a bad thing. It can just be more of a headache when you're trying to replace a missing part. So the support plates, pretty intuitively, the flanged part, or the part that goes on the side, is on the outside, because otherwise it doesn't work. So we're going to line up these 2 holes with these 2 holes and simply screw it in. And I believe these are symmetrical, so you don't have to worry about orientation, or like maybe you mixed up left or right. Okay. Now after that is step 8, which is install the desk foot. So we're going to flip this over. As you're flipping this over, be careful, make sure that the electronics don't get damaged. Here's the feet. As you can see, they already come with the leveling screws attached. It's very nice. And all you're going to do is take these letter C screws, and each of these has 4 screws that obviously go here. And you want to make sure that the leveling screws are facing upwards, because we're going to flip this over. So just try to line it up, drop it in, jiggle it around until you get one going through, and screw it in. Then screw the other one in, and bombs away. I'll tighten it all later. Actually, this one I'd say you might want to tighten it now, because we're going to flip this over later. And it's not like we need any leeway on these. So take your Allen key, turn it to its side, that gives you more torque, and tighten them fully. Alright, so the last step is to take this and install the desk board. So you want to take the desktop. You want to take the desktop or desk board and locate the side that has these 8, 10. These 10 holes on both sides. Oh, and there's also these holes here, so that indicates that this is where the console goes. So just make sure this side is the front. This side's the right side, this side's the left side. And that means that we want to make sure that the motor is on the same side as these holes. Yes, I can hear my ring scraping the table, but I don't see any marks, so don't worry. Anyway, now what we're going to do is we're going to take these letter D screws. And do they give us a screwdriver? They don't give us a screwdriver. So you're expected to have a screwdriver with you to install 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 screws. So 4 screws here, 4 screws here, and then 2 screws in the middle. So you're expected to have some sort of screwdriver to install it. It's funny because I find a lot of like generic companies or like brands that are generic, they will provide extra hardware and they'll provide like screwdrivers and stuff like that. But the more premium brands, they expect you to have the tools. It's kind of odd. Anyway, line these up. It can be helpful to have 2 people for this, but you know, it's just drilling screws into a hole. How hard could it be? So, take your drill. I have mine set to the lowest setting so I don't break anything. Okay. And if I have a hand screwdriver, I'm going to go back and tighten it after all the screws are installed. So I'll say here, before we screw in the desktop, it looks like we won't be able to access these screws on the bottom. Sorry, the screws on the top of the supporting plate. So you want to make sure before you screw this in, just tighten those all the way, because we're not going to be able to access them anymore. But I've already tightened them, so we're chilling. And we're going to continue. We're screwing in all the holes. Alright, and after that, make sure you screw in the 2 holes on the crossbeam. In this case, there's actually no hole that I can see, I think. Even if there was a hole, they actually distinctly say to do this after. So I assume that they worked some leniency into this. And we know that this is the right orientation because of the keypad holes over there. So I think we just, oh yeah, this is tapered so that when you insert the screw, it just goes in straight. And so when we use the self-tapping ability of the screw, it's gonna make its own hole, which it didn't. All right, so for these 2 screws in the middle, you're gonna need an extension. So now we have an extension. Also, though, if you do get the screw stuck, so in this case, it's not stuck right now, but if I push too hard on one side, I'm trying to demonstrate. Yeah, so if you get your screw stuck like that, which I did, which is very scary, you can take a sort of skewer or a thin rod, poke it into the hole, or into the Phillips head, and try to pull it back out. See? And that realigns it vertically. So don't panic if that happens. It's an easy fix. You could try to disassemble the entire table, but is that really worth it? Alright, so now let's drill that hole. It's a self-drilling screw, but still has a bit of difficulty biting the wood. There we go. That's weird. I don't know why they don't have a pre-placed hole like they do for these ones. Or if they do have a pre-placed hole, then it wasn't aligned with the crossbeam. But I'll have to check back the footage to see if there was actually a hole there. But they make this like way harder than it has to be. Alright, so I lost a screw in there. It went past the fins. And this is what I was talking about earlier with, it's weird that they don't provide extra replacement screws, because this is a case where I would give up and not try to recover the screw. But I have another screw that I just found in my basement, so I'm just going to put this in and be done with it. Okay. Oh my god. Anyway, the next step is to take the keypad. There are 2 screws that go with it. So 2 of these small screws. And simply just install it. Now this one already has the holes for it, so have no fear. This one is not going to be as hard. It looks like we're lining it up with these 2 holes, the second hole and the 5th hole. I'm going to adjust it so it's straight, and then tighten it. Alright. So the last step is installing the hook, which this is optional if you want, but there's these letter E screws that you can use. So you take these 4 letter E screws, and here's the hooks that they give you. They give you these metal plates, and these are for cable management. But the way these work is these have holes. These 2 random hooks have holes, but not the 2 in the middle. Anyway, I'm still mad about that. Take it, insert it, line it up. This is kind of a bit precarious. Yeah, there's not really a good way to do this. So just try to angle it in there and screw it in. This is weirdly designed. I mean, it's good that they have an optional hook. Some of them are welded in place. The ones that I've seen on Amazon that I didn't get. It's nice that you don't actually have to install these if you don't want it to for a cleaner look, but it's kind of hard to install. I assume people with big fingers are going to have a bit more of an issue putting this in. But still, my biggest gripe is with those 2 screws in the middle. They should have had a pre-drilled hole for that. Alright, so now on to the last step is wiring. So first off, here's the power supply. Has a little latch like this. It's very nice. Kind of reminds me of working on a car. This is going to connect to this latch right here. And then after that, you can use these cable ties to you open it up, Oh, no, this is just for adhesive. So this has an adhesive underside that you can stick it into. So you loop the wire around and then you just stick it in place. But first, let me insert the power supply. And it looks like it's keyed. There's a thicker, what's a part of a fork called? There's a thicker prong. Yeah, a thicker prong and a thinner prong. And this is a wider hole and a thinner hole. So just make sure those are aligned. And now that they're plugged in, you take that latch and you click it into place. All right, so after that's all said and done, you want to make sure that you go back over all of these screws and tighten them with the Allen key. I think off camera we tightened most of them, but I'm going to double check again off camera. But after that, make sure that nothing wobbles. If something wobbles, you have an issue that needs to be tightened. But in our case, I think we can flip this over and get it ready. All right, so let's plug it in and see if it works. Yeah, this is crazy. Okay. Oh, it lights up. It says 28.9 right now. I wonder what that means. Does that mean the height? Whoa. Sick. Okay, well, I'm going to do a more dedicated review of this on in a separate video, so go check that out if you're interested. Wow. I mean, it's not exactly 32.2, but I think that's because of the carpet. But that's insane. Okay, so that's the video on how to assemble this Flexispot EN1 standing desk. It's $110 on Amazon. If you want to buy it, you can go check out my link that I'll post in the comments down below. Go check out my unboxing video if you want, and also go check out my review video. That's going to be interesting. I'm going to see how much weight I can put on top of it. Not maximally, but just maybe like 100 pounds. Anyway, I'm Aiman. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and go to other videos on EyeOnAiman, and I'll see you there. Signing out.